On this video, we're going to start by making corridor surfaces, and this is going to be the first step towards doing earthwork calculations or a mass haul diagram. So we're going to start with the site that we left off with. This should have one corridor that we called First Street, and then we have another one that's for Second Street, and we have not only a center line but an edge of pavement work up there, and we also have an intersection between First Street and Second Street. So if you open up your corridors, you will see them here, and if you ever forget what is what, if you right click and say select, you'll see that whatever corridor 1 is gets selected. So corridor 1 is the intersection, corridor 2 is going to be our Second Street, and then that makes corridor 3 our whole entire First Street. So we're going to work off corridor 3 and show you how to get your surfaces for this corridor. There's a couple of ones you want to work off of. Right now, the only surface we really have is EG. That's going to be the existing grade. That's basically the topo map. And then there's one that's called scaled, where the elevation is scaled so that if you want to look at the whole entire site in 3 dimensions, it makes it a little easier to see where the high and low points are. But we're going to make more surfaces for our corridors. So you start by clicking on the corridor, and we want to go into corridor properties. And once this tab opens up, we're going to go to the surfaces tab, and we want to make 2 different types of surfaces. So we want to click on this button that is for creating a corridor surface, and we want to start out with it being links, and we want to do the top of this corridor surface. The type of surface style we want is going to be the contours and triangles, and different versions of AutoCAD, it may call it a grid. If you're ever curious about what these different types are, if you click on this button, it'll actually show you an example of what each of the different types look like. So that's kind of nice if you're not sure which one you want. So we'll change that to contours and triangles, or, like I said, sometimes grids. Once this is in, we want to click our Add button, and you'll notice that something pulls down here, and it's called Top. We definitely want that to be Top. We can now go over to the Boundaries tab. We want to right-click on this, and we want to pick our boundaries as the corridor extents as an outer boundary. So basically, wherever it's cutting and filling to on the outside of your cut and fill and your grading for your road, it's going to put a boundary there on where it defines this surface as. So we also want to go back into surfaces, and we're going to make a new one. We're going to, again, create a corridor surface. So you'll see a new one that shows up. This one, though, we want it to be the datum. And again, we're going to click the plus sign to add it, and so there you see it says datum. You can also go in and rename these if you want to. If you want to call it maybe Second Street top, and if you want to name it this one, call it Second Street datum. Might be easier to pick out later. Again, we want to change this one to the triangles and contours and triangles type. And then when you go into boundaries, you'll see that Second Street datum show up. We want to right click, again, pick those extensive boundaries. So when you click apply and say OK, you'll now see that we have a surface that showed up on top of our road, and in our surfaces area we have Second Street top and Second Street datum. The cool thing about this, you can go in and select it, right click on it, go to Object Viewer, and it's going to show you a 3-dimensional view of what you just picked out. It's going to shade it, you can kind of move it around and rotate it so you can see what the surface, the top surface of your street looks like. You can change your views. Maybe some views might show up a little bit better than others. You can zoom in, so you can just kind of get an idea of what that surface looks like. You definitely need a top, you definitely need a datum. We have to have those two. The datum is going to be the very bottom of your lowest layer on your assembly. So this is what you're going to use when you're calculating your cross-section cut and fill. If you're looking for material properties, like how much subbase and base and pavement layer you want, that's going to be the difference between the top and the datum. So there's a couple of different ways you can use those, but for now we want both of those. So that is how you create surfaces out of your corridors.